So, welcome back.
Thanks, Matt.
So this is episode 2.
Episode 2.
This is exciting. So for anyone who missed the first episode, go back and watch that. There might be some things that we're going to cover in that we've kind of go over again.
Mm-hmm.
But my first question is, how has the week been? What's it been like on the doors?
Oh, this week's been really positive. I have a little target of doing about 700 properties a week. It's not always possible if the weather is really bad, like rain. There's some weathers that I just can't go out in. So if it's really, really raining, or there's a weather, although I have been out in weather warnings, or it's really windy, although I've been out in that too. If it's really wet, I don't go out, but I try and do about 700 properties a week, and I've met my target this week, so that's really good.
Awesome.
And I'm systematically going through the constituency, so if I can clear a village in a day, that's always really good. Amazing. As well.
And we've got a count on the website, keeping track of all this, haven't we?
We do, yeah.
And that
Doors
number
knocked.
is ever increasing.
Ever increasing, yeah. So I have like mini targets, and then I have a big target. So my big target is 15,000.
Amazing. And we're about halfway?
Yes, we're over halfway. So we're nearing the 10,000 mark now. So
Amazing.
That's good.
That's a lot of doors.
It's a lot of doors, yeah.
And is there anything that you've heard when knocking, listen to the constituents this week, like in the recent past, that's been particularly interesting? Are there any common threads?
So it does follow the news quite closely. So topical stuff in the news. So obviously immigrants and the votes is very topical at the moment. So that comes up a lot. Transgender issues come up a lot on the door. They're the two big ones that come up most frequently.
And how are people generally feeling about the political situation at the moment?
Everyone obviously has their own opinion on these issues. And again, it's about that listening. So listening to their opinion and trying to hold it. And again, not offering solutions because I don't know what they are. It's just opening up the platform where we can, first of all, listen to people's views and try and get the narrative accurate and factual, because a lot of the time it isn't. It's sensationalized by the media or by the parties themselves. And like I said, I don't know. I haven't got the economy is another one. So tax and the budget and how to tax people. And there's so many opinions around that depending on your own personal circumstance. And again, I'm not an economist, so I don't have the solutions.
You've got a lot of other things under your belt.
Yeah,
but maybe
not that one.
And is that a common theme as well, taxation on the doors? Yeah,
because it means a lot to people. What's in their pocket and what's coming out is obviously very important. If people can manage their lifestyles currently, people are feeling it, like it is cold at the moment and people aren't heat. Many people answer the door to me and they're wearing their overcoat and their hat. Yeah. And when it first started to happen, I thought they were going out or they were coming in, but then I realised that is how they are in their homes.
So this is the seriousness of the situation.
Absolutely, yeah. So that needs to be thought about, that needs to be considered, because I believe that we need to have the resources to heat our homes and not be doing that.
It's a basic human right to be able to have a safe, warm space to live.
If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of need, it's housing and food and water and shelter, those things, and then having all your other basic needs met, so being warm.
So the kind of situation at the moment is even these basic needs just aren't being met.
Some of them aren't, no. Housing is another one, it's a big one. There are many people who are in temporary accommodation, so that's not. And this is why the issue around Stop the Boats and immigrants is a very topical one, because people feel like they don't have access to housing, and then they get anxious about people coming into our country illegally because they see that as them preventing them from having access to housing.
And so your role as an MP, what is your role acting like as an MP to help that situation? Well,
again, it goes back to Parliament and how we're communicating with each other in Parliament, and I think there are solutions that can be found, but we need to have an arena where people are listening and talking effectively.
I see. So there are experts in their fields that are knowledgeable about this, and we need everyone to talk to collaborate, really.
Yeah, there are think tanks everywhere, and there are people who are specialists in each area. So we definitely need to be listening to them. I'm not sure how much they are or are not listening to them.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing work that we're doing to try and fix this situation. Try and get people to work together so that people's basic needs are being met.
Yeah, because that is a common theme. Everybody needs that and wants that. no matter, again, what your political affiliation is.
Absolutely. And so I think this is a nice segue that this week I wanted to ask you some of the common questions that you might be getting on the doors or by people who are interested in following the campaign and getting involved, but might need a little bit more information.
Yeah.
So again, for everyone listening, this might be something we've kind of covered a few of these bits last week, and you can find this information as well, any more information on the website.
Yeah.
But I think potentially one of the most important ones that people might be asking is, how are you different? How are you different to any other MP, anyone else running?
Really different, because I'm not in a political party. So I'm not, we talked about this in the first episode, where I'm not subject to a whip. So I'm able to think independently and on behalf of the constituency, and able to make decisions and speak a language into Parliament that is independent rather than subject to a whip or a political party message. Some people would say that there is a disadvantage to that, because within a political party you have a direction of travel and a manifesto that sort of frames the direction of travel, which people find helpful. But I guess my question around manifestos, particularly lately, and a direction of travel is, how much are the political parties actually sticking to them anyway? They've changed their, since 2019, we've changed our Prime Minister 3 times, and they've changed their manifesto countless times, and they've not really stuck to any of it. So I don't even think that premise is working at the moment. Yeah,
that's something that we can believe less in. I think there's a whole idea of policies are great, but how often do they actually come to fruition?
Yeah. I think it's a real problem. And I think this is why people are very distrustful at the moment of government. And a reaction to that is people are disengaging. Okay. So a lot of people are saying to me on the door that they don't want to vote this time.
Okay.
Lots and lots of people are saying that. They feel like they're all liars. There's no trust anymore. The messaging is not authentic. They're not listening. So these are all big problems.
Again, the listening seems to be like a thing that's coming up a lot.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned authenticity there as well. Is there a feeling that the current parties, or there's some disingenuous activities going on?
Yeah, I think things like MPs having second jobs and massive second incomes really does not restore any faith in the voting public that they're actually doing a good job for them, because they are compromised by other contracts that they hold with other organisations.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we kind of covered this again last week, but we've kind of already covered why you're an independent and not part of a party. I think we're talking about the whip, you're not controlled. I think those are very interesting things.
Yeah.
Again, for anyone who didn't listen last week, why are you running?
It's such a good question, and sometimes I ask myself that. I think I'm running because I can see a different way forward that lots of people can't see, and also this is not an exclusive position to be an MP. It's presented to us like it's an exclusive position for certain types of people with certain types of education. It's not. I believe I've got the skills to be a good MP, both in Parliament and in the constituency. And it would be great to start to break down some of those barriers, so that this might be a position that other people feel is accessible to them in the future. That would be really great.
That's really interesting. So there's an idea that you have to have come from a certain background, certain upbringing to even be able to be an MP.
Yeah, I think that is really strong still.
And are there any things you need to become an MP?
Not really. I talked to somebody the other day, and I was like, I'm running as an independent in the next general election. And she was like, oh, can you do that? And I was like, yeah, you can actually. You can. It's just not been done before.
That's really exciting. So it's actually really accessible.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work.
It's a lot of hard work. And the system is not set up for somebody like me to access Parliament. I've given up my job. So for me and my family, there's a massive financial sacrifice.
So you're really committed to this?
Really committed, yeah. Like, it's a big sacrifice for my whole family. And my parents, who live next door, are very supportive. And I wouldn't be able to do it without my husband and my parents and my friendship group really around me, supporting me. It would not be possible. And I don't think it should be like that either. I think it should be a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
But it's just me at the moment trying to break down a wall. But once I've broken it down, then
that opens up for other people.
Hopefully.
Other more diverse voices, different backgrounds. Way more accessible.
Way more accessible. And also a belief with the public that it is possible. Because that belief isn't there at the moment because it's not been done before. But once you've broken down that wall and you've made it accessible, you can do it again and again.
That's really interesting. And I think it kind of, we might have already answered some of this next question just in what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
But how do you think you're going to win? Because other people can come in after you, can inspire that'd be amazing. But how are you going to do this first step?
I guess it's that listening process to what people are saying on the door, and what people repeatedly say is that I am a breath of fresh air. This is something that's really refreshing. It's exciting. It's something that's new. It's something that they can understand and relate to. It's not complicated. It's actually quite a simple solution to a problem that we're told is impossible to fix.
Okay, yeah.
It's a very simple solution. And I think people like that. They can relate to it. And like I said before, it talks from any political viewpoint. So if you're Labour, Liberal, Democrat, Conservative, it speaks to everybody. And it's kind of a way of working really, rather than a set of manifesto items.
Okay, that you kind of would otherwise essentially have to stick to.
Yeah, because we vote, historically we vote on a manifesto, don't we? On a party ticket with a set of principles that party used to hold.
Yeah.
Like Conservative values or Labour values, and then what they present in their manifesto. So we don't talk about the actual person who's being elected at all, really. Sometimes we do. Sometimes you get a really great constituent MP and then people are like, oh yeah, I do actually really like that person. He's really good, or she's really good for the constituency. I'll vote for that person. So it does happen, but it's not the norm.
So I suppose another thing people might be quite interested in, you talked about values of Conservatives or Labour or any of the other parties. Where do you sit?
Yeah, this is asked a lot on the door, and my response always is that I actually take values from all of them. So I mean, my parents are Conservative voters traditionally. I have some Conservative, but I used to be a police officer, which is quite a Conservative sort of, what shall I say? I guess, so I have Conservative values. I have Labour values because I worked a lot in the social sector. So like inequality, for example, I would like the playing field to be a lot more equal. And I really care about the environment. So I've got green values too.
I suppose this is quite an interesting approach because you don't have to almost you can pick and choose.
Yeah.
You don't have to say no to this because I'm X. We actually have an option to find all the best parts of parties or viewpoints.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Because there are lots of them, aren't there? And from all of them, because otherwise they wouldn't stand. If it was like, they all stand for a reason in themselves. So we need to take the best bits from all of them and put them together, really.
There's an interesting point around the divisiveness of parties.
Yeah.
Where you can't have one value. If I want a particular value, that means I have to vote for this party.
Yeah.
Whereas that's actually not the case.
No, I mean, we're told, aren't we, not to talk about politics or religion. And that's because it's like that. So if you're a Labour voter and I'm a Conservative voter, then we would have a difficulty in having a conversation because our value system apparently are completely different.
Yeah.
But there would be a lot of values that we hold the same, family values or, education values or healthcare values, community values, exactly. And really that's all politics is anyway. It's just how we organise our shared lives together. That's the point of it.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be said again, it comes back to the collaboration, the listening and the collaboration, which are the best pieces that we can use to find this better way forward. Yeah,
I do kind of think fundamentally we all want the same things. We all want and need the same things. It's just how we get there.
And I suppose, again, we might have answered some of these. This next question might have already been answered in what we just talked about. But what do you stand for?
So when I'm asked that on the door, I just say I stand for people. I stand for community and people. Keeps come home. So what do I stand for? I stand for community and people. They're at the heart of everything, really, aren't they? They should be. And if we've got that as our starting point, then we can just grow it.
Awesome. So we just talked about a few things. I say a few things, a lot of things.
Yeah.
What people have been asking you on the door, some of those frequently asked questions, again, which we kind of have on the website for anyone who kind of wants to dig in a little bit further or share it around.
Yeah.
The next thing I wanted to talk to you about, ask you some questions about, is where people are feeling on the door about voting.
Yeah.
Some of the things that people are talking about. I think something that comes up a lot is as an independent.
Yeah.
Some people might feel you're taking a vote away from another party that could get the current party out. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of desperation at the moment to change our government, and they see they only have one option to do that because that's presented to them by the other political party as the only option to do that. So they don't actually vote where they want to vote. For example, in this area, I meet people who are Labour voters, but they say, I can't vote Labour because there's no point here. So I have to vote Liberal Democrats in order to get the Conservatives out. And I think we are really stuck when we're in that place because we never truly believe what we're voting for. We are voting for something because we want something else even less.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense to me. Wouldn't it be great if we started voting for something that we really want rather than for something that we want even...
So do you see that as a reason why we shouldn't tactically vote?
I personally wouldn't tactically vote. I've always voted for the person that I believe in. And that actually, over the years, that's been in different parties. So, for example, I voted for Labour last time for Carmen Mackenzie because I really believed in her as a candidate.
Yeah.
Which would have been different to how I voted the time before.
And so what's the importance of voting for the person that you want or voting for the person versus the party?
Well, I think you would hope that the person you're voting for would go into government and be the person who you voted for in government. You know, they would take their way they are, the way they are in the world, their value system, the way they present themselves, their listening, all of those skills. You would want them to take those into Parliament and use those in Parliament. And that's where I think the value of voting for the person rather than the party really could start to play out very, very well.
And so what about if people are feeling that they've always voted for Labour or Lib Dem or the Conservatives, they've always voted that way?
Yeah.
Why should they change now?
Why not? But I think that's what I put on the website. Like, why not change now? Especially if it's not worked out. Like, there's a lot of disharmony about on the doors, in the country, really. Yeah. So whatever we've done in the past has not worked out very well for us. Yeah. So I think is a point in our history where we could start to be brave and bold and do something different.
It's time to do something different.
Could be, couldn't it?
I think it's an exciting time. I think as things have gone on, we can kind of see things haven't been working that well.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's time for something. Do you think it's risky?
I don't think it's risky because I don't think we could do anything worse, really. And I've had 85-year-olds say to me on the door, I have never known it this bad. I voted all my life but I have never known it like this. And I don't even know if I could vote this time. Wow. So what a sad state of affairs.
So people are feeling like they have no option?
No options, yeah. Wow. No options. No faith in the system anymore.
And why should people vote?
I think it's important this is our democracy, this is our government. I think it is important for people to vote, but I understand why people don't want to if there isn't somebody they feel that they can vote for.
And if people are feeling that things just aren't changing, is that an even more important reason to vote?
If things aren't changing, I think the problem actually is that things have changed so radically that people don't have any faith in the system anymore. So it's now... Does that make sense? No.
I think it makes sense. I'm asking you the questions.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting thing as well of if things...
I think there's been too much change. Before we used to have a Prime Minister who used to be our Prime Minister for 10 years, but we've had 5 Prime Ministers in 5 years.
That's very true, yeah.
So that's too much change.
We don't have any consistency.
No consistency. No. And people find it too unsettling, actually. So although we are doing something really brave and bold and different with this, we are actually trying to get to a place where it's stable, not completely erratically changing, because that's actually very difficult for people.
Something that I've heard people talking about is decency.
Okay.
A lot of people feel like they want decency as a value back in.
Yeah, okay.
That maybe that after scandal, that it feels like a child's playground or something like that.
That's said a lot, yeah. So I think when they look at, particularly Prime Minister's questions, when they look at Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak speaking to each other, they're not speaking to each other, are they? They're very disrespectful to each other. They undermine each other. They're not having a decent conversation. And I've spoken to many teachers on the door who say, you know, if they were in their school and they were children in their school, they'd be in circle time all the time. Yeah. So they'd be because they're not speaking to each other with any respect. And actually, there's no other industry where we would allow this behaviour to continue.
Yeah, it seems like it's being excused.
Yes, excused. Yeah. But this is our government.
Yeah. And there's no room for
not really, like they're running our country, so you know we've got to lead by example, and I don't feel like at the moment we've got leading politicians who are leading by example.
And so I suppose there's a part here where politics can seem very complicated and confusing, non-accessible.
Yeah.
So
I have felt all of those things.
Yeah.
So I have disengaged before from politics, not watched the news, you know, all of these things.
So you've not always been...
No.
This.
Definitely not. No. It's through my experience through the town council and being involved in local politics that has got me interested in national politics.
Brilliant. And so what would you say to people who have never been interested in politics before? Why do you think that is, and kind of what would you say to them?
I don't think it's accessible. I think it's... very excruciating to watch it, so why would they be engaged? Yeah. And I would encourage all of those people just to get involved in their local communities and their local councils first. Brilliant. Because they can actually bring about really effective change.
So each individual has a lot of power,
yes,
and especially with their vote.
Yeah, especially with their vote, but also just in their local communities, like setting up groups and engaging with other groups within their community. You can actually affect real positive change in your right where you live.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
That's brilliant. Well, I've really loved this chat. It's really exciting to hear about everything that's going on in the campaign.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to find more information, we have the website, which is abbymaguire.com.co.uk.
If you put Abby Maguire into Google, that's what I say to you. If you put Abby Maguire into Google, it will come up.
There's very few Abby Maguires.
With a C, not an A.
Oh, perfect. But get in contact, and if you want any information or if you're interested in helping with the campaign.
Yeah, any of those things.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, I can't wait to speak again.
Thanks, Matt.